Welcome. In this video, I'm going to share some tips on how to personalize head to knee pose, Janushirshasana. The basic pose is one leg stretched out in front of you and the other knee bent with the sole of the foot facing the inside of the leg and then folding forward. So we're going to talk about the challenges with that and then again, just how to make it work for your own body. Let's begin with the breath. Just let your shoulders relax down. Observe how you are in this moment. Think about something that you're grateful for. And imagine that with each inhale, a little bit of happiness flows in. All right, another full breath. Here we go. I have found head to knee pose to be very helpful for back pain. Those of you who don't know me, I have sciatica. Yes, I have scoliosis, which has often given me sciatica. And so this pose has really helped me with the sciatica, with hip pain, with low back pain. So particularly for me on this right side, because my low back pulls to the left, this side is always tighter in certain ways. The other side is tighter in different ways. But this pose has been really helpful for me. Okay, so basic pose. I'm going to take my left leg out straight. The sole of my right foot is facing the inside of the right leg. Left leg. We're going to lengthen up the spine. Toes can pull into you. If you're already feeling like you're at your limit here, simply bring your hands behind you. Pull your shoulder blades back, maybe drop your chin down so you get a little bit of a shoulder and neck stretch. If you're able to fold forward, a couple different ways you can do this with your back. Traditionally, the thought is to try to keep your back flat, like you're trying to really pull your chest as far forward towards your toes and pull your toes in as you can. What intensity can you tolerate? For me today, this feels pretty good here. I'm getting a nice stretch in the back of this hip. My back feels pretty good being flat. But if your hamstrings are really tight and they're attached to the bottom of your pelvis and they're pulling on your pelvis, very hard to keep that back flat as you fold forward. If you're not having any pain, you can let your back round. If this feels good, depending on the source of your low back pain, if you're having disc issues, rounding sometimes is problematic. If you feel like it's pinching a nerve as you round forward, you don't want to do that. That's where you want to really try to keep that back flatter. For me, because most of it is this tightness in the muscles and in the connective tissue, rounding is often helpful in releasing that out. If your leg is tight, pulling the foot in may just really exaggerate the intensity in the leg. You might be happier letting that foot relax. It's always about the benefit that you're getting from the pose. It's not the pose itself that you're worried about, creating some idealistic, perfect pose. How am I going to use this position of the body to create positive change within me? And a lot of that is also our egos and our heads. We can get too into like, oh, I'm going to create this perfect pose. And then we're just stressing ourselves out. It's not what we want in yoga. We want to be centered and calm and balanced, not aggressive. One of the other ways to keep your back flat is to use a yoga strap. And this could be anything that you have in the house. It could be a tie to your bathrobe. It could be a belt. It could be a piece of rope. Some people will use old t-shirts or old yoga pants. You just want something you can put around your foot. I tend to keep my strap in a loop because I often use it in a loop, but it doesn't have to be in a loop. Then you're just going to put the strap around the sole of your foot. This can go either across the ball of the foot, so again, you're really pulling these toes in towards you, or you can let it move down on the arch. Sometimes that feels nice for me, now that my plantar fasciitis has chilled out. And sometimes just that little pulling on the arch of the foot feels really good. Now I can use my arms to lean in a little bit. I can really work on I feel like I can keep my back much flatter, even though my back is not flat because of my scoliosis. I feel like I can keep my back much flatter using a strap. And then I can just lean in a little bit. If you can get lower in the pose without the strap, I'm going to put this to the side here. You might be able to fold in and get a hold of your foot. So if you can reach the foot, you can also try reaching across with the opposite hand. Okay, so this is my left foot. I can bring my right hand to the outside of that foot, so that now I'm getting a big stretch through the right side of the body. If you can get far enough to hold the wrist past your foot. A lot of this is also shoulder and back, upper back tightness. When those shoulders are tight, your arms aren't going to reach as far. So some of it is, what's going on in your low back and in your leg, and some of it is what's going on in your shoulders to be able to get to this point. So again, where's your body going to go where it's going to feel like it's beneficial and not painful? Okay, I'm going to change sides here. Because that was getting to be a little long, but you can hold this pose if it works well for you. You can hold it for, I would say, no more than 5 minutes. Most people no more than 4 minutes. And you don't want to, again, be aggressive and set that goal of, I'm going to do 5 minutes in this pose. But if you find it to be a beneficial pose, you're not hurting yourself, you can allow yourself to stay there a little bit longer. Other props. So if those legs are tight, your back is tight. Having a prop, okay, I'm going to demo this. I'm going to spin around again this way. This side tends to be a little bit harder for me, I think, to fold forward. I don't usually get as far, I think, on this side as I do on the other one. So if I have nothing underneath my hips, I fold in. This is about as far as I can go on this side. So my nose is at my knee. Again, this is called head to knee pose, like you're trying to bring your head to your knee. But you may never get there, and that's fine. My nose is at my knee. If I bring... Alright, I have a 3-inch thick block and a 4-inch thick block. These are not generally my favorite things to sit on for a pose, but I'm just going to show this. I also have a folded blanket, which is the more typical thing you would sit on. You can use a pillow, you could use a towel, fold it up. I'm going to take this thicker block. I'm going to bring it right under my hips. So I'm going to sit on the block. I'm going to have this leg, so now it's my right leg out straight, my left foot's pulled in. Again, I got my nose to my knee, like really about the center of my knee, I think, the tip of my nose, when I had no prop underneath me. Now I'm going to fold forward. And now the tip of my nose is past the top of my knee. I can feel a much deeper stretch through the back of my leg. I might intentionally do this to get a little more intensity in the leg. If your legs and hips are really tight and you're just feeling like when you sit in the pose without a prop that you're just rounding like this because those hamstrings are so tight and they're pulling on your pelvis and on your low back, then having that prop underneath you is going to let you straighten up your back a bit more. And you may still not get super far forward into the pose when those hamstrings are tight, but it'll just let you not feel like you're right, I've been there. Not feel like you're falling backwards and you really need your hands behind you. So if that's happening, try a little prop. And if you take a class someplace that doesn't have props, a yoga block is a really easy thing to carry around because it's small and it's light. A blanket can be a little more awkward. If you have a yoga bag, it can fit in there. My yoga mat that I take to classes is fairly heavy, so I like having a light yoga block in the bag, so it's not quite as much weight as the blanket. All right, another breath. So we want to really pay attention in each and every pose to how we're feeling, how the energy is in the body today, how tight the muscles are, where there may be pain. You may find that over time, as you hold the pose for several breaths, that you're just going to kind of sink down into the pose a little longer or a little farther. And once you're in the pose for a couple of breaths, you may feel that sensation. So again, that can take a lot of practice till you start to feel like the body's letting go within just the pose. If that's happening, then you can lift up a bit, lengthen out your back, and fold back in. And breathe. If the inner leg is tight and your knee is really like here, and you're feeling a lot of tension, a lot of pain on that inner leg and hip, that's again where a block can come in handy. You can use the block, for this pose you can use the block on two different sides. You can use it on the what I call the medium height, where it's resting on the long edge, or you can use it flat, the low height. You can also use the block on the high end, but that doesn't usually work in this pose, but just for other poses. You might want to have your knee supported so you're not getting so much intensity in that leg, especially if you're feeling it in your knee. Having a little prop under the knee can be really helpful. Let's take another breath. Other ways to shift your pose. I'm just going to change back to my other side here. As you're folded in over the leg, you may feel like it's crushing your abdomen a little bit and maybe a little bit hard to fold over the leg. You could walk the body over a little bit towards the bent knee. If you feel like you can walk it the other way, you can try walking your hands over to the other side. Now I can feel a deeper stretch through the bent leg hip. Going this way. I can also feel it through this shoulder. So I'm moving to my right. I can feel it through my left shoulder. Anything you do, you want to try to balance it from side to side. But as I already said, I have these variations from side to side, these differences. So my poses are never going to be exactly the same on each side, and you're just going to go with that. What's happening on this side? Trying to create some balance, but it's not going to be exactly the same usually. If you're going to revolve, so again, you might walk over here, right? You might come down the middle rather than being straight over the leg. If you're doing the revolved pose, you're going to turn your body towards the bent knee. And this might be it. Just a hand on the leg, getting this little twist. So now this is my right arm coming up. If you can go lower, you can hold. You can still have your hand supported on the leg, or you might be able to get to the toe. And then depending on how loose the side of your body is with the raised arm, you might be able to reach over and grab hold of your foot. This bottom arm could also come over to the bent knee leg. And you can try to bring that shoulder down a little bit more, and then the arm can come over. Today's a pretty good day for me to do this. Other days I'm nowhere near close to being able to get that low in the pose. All right, so that's the revolved pose. And again, you want to just do things on both sides. Okay, so for me, the other side, again, on this pose is very different. So if I try to do it the other way, I usually can't go as far on this side. This is about my limit today on this side, because it just starts to tweak my low back a bit if I go too far on this side. So again, if I hold it for a couple of breaths, I might be able to get a little bit lower in the pose, but I can already feel like that's my limit. All right, let's take another breath. And then after you've done the poses, any pose, in a yoga class, we're trying to create this balance again. by, how we combine the poses together. And then what comes after that pose? What's the counter pose from that head to knee pose? Depending on how you're feeling. So again, we're trying to just tap into what's going on in my body today. A wide leg forward fold can be a nice one because now you're getting inner leg. If you're going to try to create some balance in the legs, we did back of the legs. I would usually do maybe a pigeon pose to get the outer leg. If you're just going to do kind of a couple of poses, it could be that you're just going to do a head to knee pose and you're good to go. That may be like your super beneficial pose of the day, and that's just what you need in the moment. A lot of times, if I'm holding that pose in a yin yoga class where we've done that for 4 or 5 minutes, often my counter pose is just to come out onto my back. I'm trying to not kick over my water. Just to lie down, straighten the legs out. And this can go either way. You might feel like you need to pull your knees in first and stretch your back, or it may be that you're just going to let your legs come out straight. Because we get this compression in the front of the hips in that pose as we're folding forward, being flat can just help that spot release out. And you can take several minutes here. I think being on your back is a super beneficial pose for most people, depending on how hard your surface is. If you have terrible osteoporosis, which a lot of us do, you may not want to be on such a hard surface. And that's where practicing at home is really beneficial. If you have a rug or a carpet, or you can layer things up, you can layer up some blankets to support your spine. All right, so we're going to come back into centering. If you're sitting in a cross-leg position, see if you can change legs. See if you can bring that bottom leg on top. Take a big breath. And again, think about something that you're grateful for. Allow a little bit of happiness to flow in with each inhale. Imagine the sensation of happiness flowing into your body. Thank you for being here and sharing in this practice with me today. Namaste.